Good afternoon. How is it going out there? At Envision, it is but expected to have many voices centered around heating and cooling, solar and wind, carbon capture, circular economy, importance rather need of having viable technology for being adopted by people at large, and the list can continue. Sometimes it's important to take a pause, stand still, have that unconnected stream of thoughts, and you never know the wonders it can do. Think of a school whose admission criteria is not grade or excellence, but that one should have failed in conventional educational system. Believing in the skills of head, hand, and heart, empowering the whole community, and innovating for common good. Yes, you are right. An engineer by heart, a change maker by choice. Dare to dream of a world where progress can coexist with nature, converting challenges into opportunities for a region and beyond. An inspiration for all of us at IIT Madras Research Park for starting our program, Making of a Rancho, for youngsters to make them believe that creativity and passion can ignite a change at global scale. The mind behind Ice Stupa, addressing acute water scarcity by Himalayan communities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join your hands together to welcome earlier Rancho, Mr. Sonam Wangchuk.
Thank you very much. Thank you, friends. Vanakkam, namaskar, Jule, as we greet in Ladakh. I bring you very warm greetings from a very, very cold place. Yeah? When I took off yesterday, it was -7. It was snowing, and it was one of the warmest mornings. I hope you know that it's warmest when it snows. You could find out more about the science behind that. It's been -15 for many mornings. But the big thing is, I really am grateful to all of you for making me feel at home here in Chennai with an overly air-conditioned hall where I really wanted to put on something. I came thinking of enjoying Chennai climate, and then I had to scramble for my jackets, had to go back to my room and bring this, which is gratefully acknowledged, but also sadly, because this is what is happening in the world, and then we discuss net zero. It's so beautiful, 28 outside, and I was feeling so good till I came in the hall. Similarly, I was feeling so good after the airport till I was in the room, which was very cold. So I saw the temperature outside was 27, 26, which is what we all are designed for. We are so blessed in the whole world, in this subcontinent. People are comfortable between 24 to 28. Europeans are not. North Americans are not. They have to do a lot. But you all are gifted to be, but then we create our own hell with the... So I had to remove the quilt and take the cover and switch off the air conditioner and be so comfortable afterwards. I could have been comfortable at 20 degrees of the room and a thick quilt, but that was violence, no? As would this be. So there's a lot of things to think about, things to redefine, things to rethink. Like it's 28, 26, and this room would be set to 18, which then finally goes to 20. I have a thermometer here, which is 8 degrees unnecessarily down, but every degree takes 6% of the energy. That means nearly 48%. So at half the energy, you could be so comfortable in this hall. What you really needed is a dehumidifier, really, not an air conditioner at this time, or maybe by 2 degrees, which makes a lot of difference finally. In energy, in economics and ecological costs. So that's, was the sad part, but I really am grateful that I felt at home here in Chennai. Going forward, I have been thinking of ground zero for net zero for a few days since I saw. I really admire that you have taken such a theme, and I heard it was Pralay, the climate crisis last year, beautiful. And at IIT Madras, I expected there'd be a lot of technological solutions of energy saving, of energy storage, of nuclear, solar, cutting edge. All of that is wonderful. All of that is wonderful, but they're still in the box of technology. And I more and more see that the answer is not in technology alone or with technocrats alone. It's much wider than that. In Ladakh, we have been trying both, starting with technology, a slightly out-of-box technology. We are at the edge of environmental challenges. As you know, it's a polar climate there with minus 20 normal, going up to minus 30. In summers, plus 35, almost like outer space. Yeah? There, ever since I finished my engineering, while reforming the education system, I've seen through schools where children shiver in the cold of the winters and are not even able to hold a pen together. Beyond a certain temperature, your fingers freeze and you can't write, and they fail in large numbers, not just because of the temperature. A lot of other things are wrong with the education system. But this was one, and I started working on schools that are warm in a very cold place with hardly any resources. We don't have oil in the soil. We don't have woods on the mountains. We hardly have anything to burn when we have minus 30, minus 35. But often we look into the ground for oil and complain. What we forget is what we do have in each of our places. In Ladakh, it's sun, bright, sunny days for 300 days of the year, which is one of the highest in the world. So ever since then, from 90s, I've been working on these technologies with a little out-of-box approach. Why I'm saying out-of-box approach is when I say we do solar-heated schools and residences in Ladakh, people ask me, so you have photovoltaic panels and then batteries and then heaters. Actually, they not only think only of these standard things you find, but make projects even. Once I was flying from Leh airport some 10 years ago, and they had a huge project to redo the Leh airport. And I was shocked to see what I always feared people did, this too much in the box thinking. So they had planned, first of all, the manager said, we are so happy to tell you we are going to be totally solar heated. And I said, wonderful. How? He said, we'll have 5 megawatts of photovoltaic panels, and then I don't know how many megawatt hours of batteries, and then we'll have heaters everywhere. May sound right to you, but what we are looking for is not electricity. Electricity is a very highly refined energy. Why would you bring it back down to heat, which is a very crude form of energy, easily available in other ways? So you don't have to use photovoltaics to get electricity, then use lithium ion to store it, and then all kinds of other technologies to heat it, whereas you can directly heat from sun. The rays have direct heating, so you don't have to put it through. Each of them have such problems of efficiency. Photovoltaics has 20% or so. Then you will store it in batteries, whatever fancy batteries. They would have their own efficiency. Then inverters. Finally, what you get at the heater would be like 10% of what you got. Whereas we simply saw that you could orient your building architecturally to capture all the sun's heat and use glass to trap it, what is called greenhouse effect, and use batteries because you don't need warmth when the sun shines. It's warm anyway in the day. When you need is at night, from the day to the night, or from sunny weeks to cold weeks. Now again, batteries, you can't come out of lead acid and lithium ion, but if you look little differently, then you see that for heat, stone is a great battery. For heat, water is even better. I mean, 2 times better than stone, many, many times better than all these chemical batteries. So we started designing houses to capture the energy of the sun directly through building facades that face the south with black walls which have water inside, which are the best batteries for heat energy, not electrical, and you don't need electricity, you need heat for a cold place. By the way, there was a research done in Ladakh some 15 years ago. We often think our needs are electric energy. Not always. In Ladakh, it was found that 80% of the energy used is in heating and cooking. Only 10 to 20 is in other things that need electricity. Heating doesn't need electricity, and that's the biggest need for energy. Similarly, in hot places, it's cooling. Cooling and heating are the biggest guzzlers of energy, whereas for cooling, it is a little more complicated. You only know of electric cooling systems. For heating, it's a no-brainer to use non-electric heating systems. So you can immediately rid yourself of having to use heaters and then store in batteries. You can use direct heat in water batteries and in buildings that are built with earth. You don't need concrete except for maybe skyscrapers. Most things you don't need concrete. And that's as much true for here as for Ladakh. I think the use of concrete is not really for your benefit. The way we build 1-story, 2-story buildings all in concrete, it's very beneficial, not for you, for the companies that sell cement. Yeah? And that's also the reason why nobody promotes earth, which is what we build our buildings in Ladakh with. Earth, which is abundant, right under your feet. Powered and heated by sun, which is abundant, right over your head. Nobody's so poor they can't afford soil or sun. But very few build with earth because nobody finds interest in promoting earth. You don't hear jingles on the radio or ads on TV, this earth, that earth, because everybody has it in abundance under their feet. That doesn't mean it is not of value, because greatest things are in such abundance thanks to nature, and we fail to realize the value. That's true of oxygen also, by the way. Yeah, we don't value it. We don't pay for it. The day we pay for it, perhaps COVID was one glimpse of what could happen. We may start valuing. Anyway, so we started, I'm just passing through the technology bit, a little bit out of box, use of technology to mitigate emissions in Ladakh, where we are basically victims because we have very little contribution to the global warming and climate change, but we are at the receiving end. But still, we didn't want to sit hand in hand, hands on hand with spectators. We started working on these buildings that would emit nothing but give very happy environment for residents. So in the 90s, when we built our school with all mud and all solar, it was perhaps the world's first campus that was carbon neutral, zero energy, off-grid. Yes, thanks. When these terms were not really invented also. And then you may have heard about the water crisis. Again, we wanted to do it differently, the way we could do in our place. Every place has a gift and a curse. So we are cold, which is a curse. We have great sun, which is a gift. We have such water shortage, and we have to store the water like you do also in dams and ponds and reservoirs, but those are so expensive and dangerous. But we are gifted with this very cold winter, which means that we are one of the only places who can store water vertically up in the sky. Yeah? You can't, yeah? So we have a gift there. So therefore we started storing water up in the sky, 12 stories, 14 stories, pyramids of ice. The reason was that the geometry is such that sun cannot melt it. When you have these shapes that have low surface area for the volume, it doesn't melt. If you freeze it in January, you can get it, keep it in till June. Yeah? But they are so cost effective, you don't have to spend money building reservoirs and risk floods and so on. You just can store in the air. So those were some ways of dealing things with technologies, but more and more now I come to realize that it has to be much bigger than just using technology by scientists and engineers. First of all, it has to be people and their lifestyles. So for the last 5 years or so, we have said that solar heated buildings, okay, great. Artificial glaciers that I was talking about, these pyramids of ice. By the way, these I won't go in details because you can look up videos which speak much better than I could in this short time. So you look up my name on YouTube, you'll find on solar heated buildings how they work, on how artificial glaciers work. I won't spend more time on that. I'll spend time on something that is beyond these technologies. Yeah? So few years ago we said, these are great, but we cannot be proud of them. These cannot fix the problems that we face in the high Himalayas. Our glaciers are melting, and with few solar heated buildings, even though the Indian Army is now adopting, which would be a huge impact when a military adopts such clean green technologies in very critical climates. There will be huge impact, but still it will be very small compared to what the rest of the world is doing, because of which our glaciers are melting, and they are melting not just giving us droughts, but every other year it is punctuated with a flash flood, then a drought. So that's what life has become in high Himalayas, and that's the early signs. Very soon it will be catastrophic everywhere, pralay as you called it last year. It's already started. We are the alarm bells for the rest of the planet. High Himalayas and maybe the coastal areas, which may be submerged before the rest of the world sees the impacts. So we started this movement going beyond technology alone to say that we should give a SOS call to the world to change their lifestyles. These can't fix our glaciers, these little technologies. People around the world have to change something. The solution is with you in Chennai, in Delhi, Mumbai, Beijing, Paris, New York, London. As long as people live this lifestyle, global warming will continue. And therefore, we started a movement called I Live Simply. I Live Simply movement with the message from the mountains which says, please live simply in your cities so that we in the mountains may simply live. A lot of support for that. 2 years later, the Honorable Prime Minister launched Mission Life, which is almost exactly the same, lifestyle changes, which was great because it then reaches farther and wider. And to appeal to the world and the government to make sensitive policies for very sensitive, eco-sensitive regions like the Himalayas, we started appealing to the people in Ladakh, in the Himalayas, and rest of the country with the Save Ladakh, Save Himalayas movement, if some of you have heard. Not only heard, we were so amazed to see so much support, not only from Ladakh, where a third of the entire population walked out to say, please change policies, please change lifestyles, so that we can save the high Himalayas with its glaciers, which are a source of water for entire North India and a quarter of the world's population. 2 billion people depend on Himalayan glaciers. So in Ladakh, the whole community, whole population was engaged. Then throughout the Himalayas, so many people came out in support, and throughout the nation, I think in Chennai also there were people who were participating as Friends of Ladakh, Friends of Nature. We had various chapters called Friends of Ladakh, Friends of Nature in different cities in India, and we really want to thank them for supporting nature, not just in Ladakh, but in their own cities. These groups take care of what's going wrong in their own areas and voice their support for a balanced development in the high Himalayas. So that was another way coming out of the technology box to engage people, communities around the nation and around the world. But for the last year or two, I've been more and more thinking that it has to go even further. First of all, technology and straight-jacketed technology is not a solution. As long as demands are increasing unbridled, just tweaking the supply side will not help much. You can go for electric cars or solar electricity, but each of them, as some of our friends shared, have their own dark sides. So it has to change at the demand side, at the people side, where your needs are going so out of control, then no matter what supply is, ultimately it will have a huge impact. So therefore, we need to really redefine many fundamentals of our society today, is what we are more and more realizing. Redefine, bring ground zero, not just for energy or carbon, but life, particularly of human beings, yeah, who have had this impact, not only on human society, but for all the others who have no role to play, the birds, the bees, the insects, the trees, the lakes, the glaciers, all of them are suffering because of us. And finally, when we start also seeing the sufferings, maybe we should now take notice. It is truly of pralay scale. If we let it go like this, there will be runaway climate change and very little can be done unless we change some fundamentals. So for that, we'll have to change or redefine what is development, what is progress, ground zero of development itself. And if you ask people, why do you want to develop, they'll say, we want more comfort, more happiness. Fair, you need more comfort, more happiness, but it is not always from supply side. By making supply higher and higher, you may not be happier and happier. Unfortunately, today we are chasing a race that doesn't know the bigger picture, and I think answers could be found less in New York or Beijing or London, more in our ancient wisdom. For example, the one answer that I find and the world should perhaps learn from is Buddha, 2,500 years ago in this country, gave this wisdom of saying, for a human being, it is a greater achievement to eliminate a single desire than to fulfill 1,000 desires. You understand the depth of this? Unfortunately, today we consider our role models those who have fulfilled 1,000 desires, but they'll have the 1,001st, 1,002nd, 2,000th, it will not end. And we don't celebrate the people who have done the other way, out of box. They have eliminated the very desire, so no need to fulfill. They're happy or happier at much less than 1,000 desires that we chase. So that is the demand side. We are trying to fill our bosoms with things, chasing happiness. We want bicycles. We put it in our bucket. Think of it as a bucket in the chest. Yeah? You put bicycles, very soon, not enough. Motorcycles, not enough. Car, not enough. This car, that car, helicopter, fighter, now to Mars. Still not enough. It turns out that your bucket has no bottom. So all of these are falling through and it will never fill. Isn't it a great out-of-box idea to just put a bottom to the bucket? That technology also we need to work on. I'm really happy that we are all working on improving the supply side, but parallelly we have to also work on the demand side, that we need less of the best things. No doubt, great things, good things, best things are coming up, but how can we reduce our needs and desires and demands by putting a bottom to the bucket? Now, sometimes when I talk about what Buddha said, people think I'm touchy-feely, the Baba talk. So then I tell them, no, actually you all are in modern economics. Even your gurus say that. Go look at what Easterlin's paradox is. Easterlin's paradox, if you look up, says that happiness does increase with material wealth, but only to a certain extent. Zero material wealth, zero happiness. True, I will never champion for poverty. Somebody who's hungry, sick, freezing will never be happy. So you need material wealth to make it better. But after a point, then the graph is not linear. It goes flat. More money, zero increase. More money, zero increase. More money, it may go down even. So this is the Easterlin's paradox from your own gurus. This much you can accept and then design your development in a way that you don't end up ruining the whole world for zero increase in happiness, if that's your pursuit, right? So that was Easterlin's paradox. Another very important lesson from this very modern development is in economics you have the law of diminishing marginal utilities. If some of you know, everyone must know this. If we talk of education, actually economics, it should start with these, then master the other things. If you don't have the foundations, you go on a wild chase, chasing shadows, never catching them. So if you learned these. So law of diminishing marginal utilities is all about this. This is not Baba talk. This is like when you get your first pair of shoes in life, it gives you so much satisfaction. Understandably so, because it was so painful with the thorns and gravels on the path, right? But when you buy your second pair of shoes, the satisfaction is okay, but not so much. Third, fourth, 10th, you hardly even notice. You may use it once and forget. But people are busy buying their 41st pair of shoes, which doesn't give you almost any satisfaction, but does all the same damage as the first one to the planet. So this is from modern economics. Why don't you start with those foundations? You will come to similar outcomes. So we need to redefine development today, the ground zero of development. What is it that we are looking for? And then we need to redefine many things. This is what I thought would make more sense than technology alone, which is great, but along with that, how do we need to see things in a different way from how we did maybe 300 years ago when industrial revolution was happening and we were coming out of a long period of scarcity. We are guided by a long period of food and clothing and so on, and today when people are not dying because of food shortage, they are dying of excessive food, obesity, and you're applying the same fuel. You put the same fuel, you'll get the same outcome. We need to redefine these things. Therefore, we need to redefine education. Education should be about theories like these that I just mentioned. Education should be about understanding how you have to live on this planet. Now that we know the limits and boundaries of the planet, how do we live? But we are not doing. We're doing the same 250-year-old input in the engine that brought us here. More fuel will take us even deeper into the pit. No? So therefore, we need to change what we do. I mean, people expect workshops like this to change their minds. Yeah? Nobody has time, actually, even for a day, for a lecture. And yet we expect these could change. But we forget that not an hour, not a day, not a month, not a year, for 15, 16 years we were captive listeners. Where? Each one of us. In schools. And we don't use that for changing people. We use this 1 hour workshop, please. Why don't we use this institution beautifully created somehow that every individual is put through at the beginning of life for 15 to 20 years, a ritual. Now we have to make use of it to deal with the crisis that we are facing. So education needs to be redefined so that it prepares us to deal with the demand side and not only with the supply side. It prepares us to reduce our needs and increase our contentment from small things rather than doing the same things but with solar electricity. May not help so much. Now that's for children, education. For grown-ups, what? Who are already grown-ups. Grown-ups are influenced not so much by engineers and scientists, I may tell you in the beginning, although we think these solutions are engineering and scientists and technocrats can change the world, very few people listen to them, actually. If you look at the world, many more people listen to spiritual gurus, religious leaders, don't they? Yes. All over. Hardly any listen to scientists. And even if they do, not much happens. So we need to redefine religion. We need to actually redefine concept of God. Why I'm saying that? I'm trying to look at tools for changing things, right? And I see that people follow religions religiously, as the term goes. And what do religions speak of? They all speak of ahimsa, non-violence. Ahimsa. And what is himsa then? Because ahimsa is a negative of himsa. Himsa is violence, which means violence was once a huge problem. Violence, and I can understand, 10,000 years ago as hunter-gatherers, violence was perhaps the biggest problem of the day. People had no law, order, anybody to fear, so might was right. If you and I have a disagreement, I can open up your skull, and that was okay. Nobody would say anything. Of course, he's mightier. He did it. Then some people who were very, very innovative, and I think we are hardly anything compared to that innovation. with all our technologies. The biggest, most impressive innovation for me is the innovation of God, the concept of God. Some form that is way more mighty than the mightiest brute, and you suddenly think it's not me and my might, and you start behaving differently. And it worked. This innovation worked so beautifully that last year I was looking up causes of unnatural death. And you know, this violence of guns and scuffles and weapons is somewhere down 26th in number, which perhaps was the number one. And that's why every religion speaks of non-violence, ahimsa, ahimsa, because himsa was a problem perhaps. You know, just as you know viruses from the antiviruses. COVID, you don't see the virus, but you see the antigens. Similarly, you see the non-violence emphasis and can understand there was violence. So today, for our spiritual leaders, I'm trying to make them see. I was at Mahakumbh meeting all the Shankaracharyas and other spiritual leaders from His Holiness Dalai Lama to their Holinesses Shankaracharyas to priests, trying to say, how come you can't see the violence of lifestyle? Today the biggest killer is not guns and daggers, it's 26th. First 1, 2, 3 are lifestyle and environmental reasons. 9 million people die, up 7 to 9, of air pollution alone. This is a scale that matches World War I and World War II. And we don't see the violence because it happens in sleek-looking cars, it happens with clean shoes, which are the 41st for the person, all the factories that produce, all the swanky aeroplanes and so on. So we don't see, so it would be so important for them to say that this is the highest order of violence that is happening today. People's lives are shortened by 15 years in cities like New Delhi, I'm sure here also, and that's not seen as violence. So we need to redefine the ideas, the foundations of our religions to see such lifestyles and such extravagance and such consumption which leads to such death and destruction as sinful activities. That could perhaps change people more, and when people change, governments change their policies too. So it's very important to reach out to people to change their minds, and then political systems follow people's maturity. So we have to redefine religion is what I was trying to say. We need to redefine more things. We need to redefine law. You know, if I kill you with a dagger or a gun, I'll go to jail. But if I kill you with my car over 15 years, no recognition for that. If people are dying, if life expectancy is reduced by 10 to 15 years in Delhi, who's going to jail for that? It's just not there in the books that this slow poisoning we are doing is also a crime. If not sin, it is a crime. So law needs to catch up to recognize this. And what about all the other living forms? We are not just the only ones. If we get it, we have bought it. We have asked for it. But other life forms have not, and we have unilaterally waged a war on them. So law needs to redefine itself. Therefore, I just wanted to say that great, we should look into all kinds of technologies for net zero, bringing from ground zero, but so many other things need to be relooked, redefined, and only then we can expect a different thing. Of late, I have been wondering, just understanding what I say will not also change your lifestyle. You will understand and think, wonderful, how reasonable, and tomorrow it will be the same. So maybe we need to redefine the foundations of economics which run us. Yeah? Money runs us. And money long ago used to be based on gold. No? Gold was the foundation on the basis of which you would issue currency notes. Not now, but that's a reasonable thing. Gold, a scarce resource, and therefore you issue currencies to say that I will pay the bearer the equivalent of 20 rupees. So what you are carrying is not really 20 rupees, it's the equivalent of gold or whatever. And today there are funnier foundations for currencies. We removed gold, okay, but today they are meaningless. You mine data, spend time mining data and cryptocurrencies. I was thinking instead, why not make the basis of our economics oxygen? Yeah? Oxygen is more precious than gold. It's your life. Clean air, oxygen, and capture of carbon as the basis of currency, which are almost same. If we were to make that as the basis of our economics, our currency, then everybody will be mining oxygen or mining CO2 and capturing it. And the easiest way is not all the gadgets that was shown. The easiest way is to plant trees. Such a beautiful machine invented way before human beings came. And it not only sequesters carbon, it also gives you food. What can you ask for? It gives you oxygen, it gives you food, it takes away carbon. And we are so intelligent that we don't not only plant it widely, we cut even the ones that were there from before. Can you imagine an intelligent species that does that? The proverbial cutting the branch that you're sitting on. Huh? And we talk of carbon capture machines. Good if you can, but please don't cut the trees that are there, that are doing exactly that and giving you food and oxygen. So if, just imagine, I'm just wild in imagination, if global currency was based on carbon capture and oxygen release, then nations would go planting trees and they'll get rich. It will be like their gold reserve. It's like their tree reserve is rising, and on that basis they could import things, on that basis they could pay people, and you could do this mining yourself in your backyard. You plant 5 trees, make them grow, and you have the equivalent of that gold. Some such thing. I'm not clear, I'm not an economist, but I am on the edge of what could be done to change things so that people behave differently. Because with this kind of foundations of economics change, people may not know even that they are doing this charitable act. They'll just do it because it makes them better in their life and solves the rest of the problems also. So all I'm saying is we need to look at many things and redefine the foundations of life today, and I look forward to a different world. Thank you very much. Thank you.